Turkey is at a turning point. For the first time in its history, Turkish people are going to vote in a runoff to elect the next president. We are going to explore the remaining candidates, potential outcomes, and implications for the country's future and the world. What will Turkey look like after another Erdoğan presidency? What would happen if he suffers his first defeat in over 20 years? We have the answers and some more. Let's dive right in. When you flip a coin, it'll spin countless times, but there are only two possible outcomes. The current state of affairs in Turkey is the same. Only one of the candidates will win, but how they'll be able to do it is for anybody to guess. For Recep Tayyip Erdoğan, the road to the presidency is littered with stone and glass shards, but with the iron boot of an entire government, there is not much that could stop him. However, he has exceeded all expectations with his first-round performance. Erdoğan showed his excellent use of media, and support from Islamist communities has not vanished over the years. If Recep Erdoğan were to win the election in Turkey, there is no reason to doubt that he'll continue with what he has been doing for the last 20 years. He has been a prominent figure in Turkish politics for many years, serving as prime minister from 2003 to 2014 and as president since then. During his tenure, Erdoğan implemented a series of significant political and socio-economic changes, which have been both praised and criticized by different segments of society. Erdoğan's administration introduced a presidential system in 2018, which increased the president's executive powers. Another term could consolidate and strengthen this system, potentially impacting the balance of power between the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. His government had focused on infrastructure development, economic growth, and attracting foreign investment, but this has become a distant memory for Turkish people, especially middle-class families. With the inflation rate at 40 to 50%, the national currency being in the gutter, and a high rate of unemployment in the country, economic issues have become the Achilles heels of Erdoğan. If he gets elected, he has to do something different from before to meet the expectations of his supporters and their trust in him to fix the economy. During Erdoğan's rule, there has been criticism for restrictions on freedom of expression and the media, as well as concerns regarding human rights issues. The approach to these issues could continue along similar lines, potentially affecting civil liberties and political freedoms. With his beliefs and track record, it is safe to assume that secular Turkey will move towards a more Islamic and authoritarian one, which aligns very well with Erdoğan's geopolitical ambitions in the Muslim world. On the diplomatic front, Turkey's policies may see some drastic changes, especially toward the West. As the war in Ukraine continues, there is a lot of pressure on Turkey to cut ties with Russia, but the various business deals and personal friendship between Erdoğan and Putin, along with the dissatisfaction of the Turkey in America, it is very unlikely that anything will change. We will see if the inauguration of different big projects, such as Turkey's first nuclear power plant, has a sway over people's opinion of Erdoğan. If Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu were to win the election in Turkey, it could potentially lead to significant changes in the political and social landscape of the country. Kılıçdaroğlu is the leader of the main opposition party, the Republican People's Party, and the candidate of the 6 other opposition parties that make up the National Alliance. He has been an outspoken critic of the current government for many years now and has lost 3 times before to Erdoğan. This time it may be different. There are some ways this could happen. The alliance can focus its campaigning on economic issues that people are facing right now, or they can use the aftershock of the February earthquake to shake Erdoğan's vote bank. Another way is to increase their vote bank through a coalition with Sinan Oğan, the third candidate in the first round. He may have gotten only 5% of the vote, but the 2.8 million supporters who have voted for him are enough to tip the scale in the alliance favor. However, it is very unlikely that this team-up would happen because Sinan has a very radical view toward immigrants, and Kılıçdaroğlu's ties with Kurdish groups are not to his liking. Despite that, there are more pressing matters that Kemal has to deal with. Signs indicate that the opposition is disheartened and the fallout of the National Alliance is possible. Some news has been circling that Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu had ties with the 2016 coup attempt against Erdoğan. If proven right, he immediately disqualifies from the election. If despite all odds he gets elected, we can be assured that Turkey would change drastically on many fronts. Some of them could be these. Kılıçdaroğlu has expressed support for reforms aimed at strengthening democratic institutions and the rule of law in Turkey. This could involve a greater separation of powers between the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of government, and potentially reversing some of the changes introduced by Erdogan's government. He has promised to implement policies aimed at reducing inequality and improving the welfare of ordinary citizens. This could involve increased social spending and redistributive measures, potentially funded by higher taxes on corporations and the wealthy, which Erdogan refused to do due to being too un-Islamic. On the foreign relations front, Kılıçdaroğlu has criticized Erdogan's assertive foreign policy, particularly regarding Syria and Libya. If elected, he may pursue a more cautious and diplomatic approach to foreign affairs, while also prioritizing relationships with Turkey's traditional allies, mainly the West, and it could mean that Finland might finally get Turkey's vote and join NATO. Kılıçdaroğlu has advocated for greater respect for civil liberties and human rights in Turkey. This could involve greater protection for freedom of expression, assembly, and the media, and potentially rolling back some of the restrictions introduced by Erdogan's government. But all of this is ifs and maybes. The certain thing is that the vote of the youth of Turkey is going to be a deciding factor. With 10 million eligible voters under the age of 25, Turkey has the youngest population in Europe. They do not care about the political parties, they care about solutions. They don't know Turkey before Erdogan. They want a secular and democratic Turkey, and they are going to make their voice heard.